Welcome back. Well, it seems Cosatu's finally come out and given a view on the Phala Phala scandal and President Cyril Ramaphosa. As you know, the entire country's been talking about this since the findings of the parliamentary panel last week that said the president may be guilty of a serious violation of the law and the constitution. Now, Cosatu says calls for Ramaphosa to resign are premature. But News 24 is reporting that Cosatu President Sizwe Pamla has said the Federation will not be backing anyone for the position of ANC leader next week, which I presume means they're not backing Ramaphosa. The spokesperson for Cosatu is Sizwe Pamla. Sizwe, good afternoon to you. Why do you believe it's premature for the president to resign?
Well, because the president has not been given an opportunity to respond to the report, to the panel report. But also the parliamentary process has not been concluded. Let's allow Parliament to process the report. Let's allow the president to respond to the report. We've always said that we need to have trust in our institutions. Now we have the executive, we have the legislative holding the executive account. That's something good. But also we are a democracy where people have to be given an opportunity leveled against them. We have constitutional processes, we have the rule of law. Let's all allow these processes to unfold. As and when we get to a point where we have all the information and now the president is found guilty, then the conversation should change. We should focus on what is it that the president should do going forward. But it can't be that we say to Parliament, we want you to hold the executive to account. And Parliament has not even processed the report itself. We're already pontificating and undermining the very same processes that we said should unfold, it should be respected.
Look, I mean, these are serious findings by serious people. You would have seen the claims around the money, the questions the president refuses to answer. You say he should have a chance to respond. Frankly, every single journalist would be very happy to give him a chance to respond. He simply refused to. I mean, do you really believe he can continue in office despite all of that?
Well, look, if we really start to bring our feelings and sentiments into these processes, it's a slippery slope. You are right. These are serious people who have produced this report. But it will not be the first time that serious people have actually come out with reports that do not make sense. In fact, you can look around the country, the problems that we have. Most of those problems come from very well-respected people, highly qualified, some of them, highly experienced, some of them. So let us not also start to elevate people when we are currently dealing with problems that have been delivered to us by highly qualified, respected people. Let's allow this report to be scrutinized like all the other reports. Let us not treat it differently.
But, I mean, the ANC is not going to scrutinize it. It's just going to block it in Parliament. I mean, isn't that in Nkandla all over again?
I'm not sure where do you get that information from. The ANC has not said that this is what they intend to do. The ANC, we will deal with what the ANC does when the ANC starts to tell us what it intends. The ANC hasn't pronounced. Let's not have these conversations where we start to make assumptions.
Oh, come on.
I sympathize with people who say we have history to refer to. Yes, we do have indeed, and we have learned lessons from that history. But the reality is we also cannot suspend the rule of law. We cannot suspend constitutional processes just because we are frustrated. We signed up for this. We said we want to be a constitutional democracy. We said we want to subject people to processes. But despite the fact that this is frustrating, let us not then allow our frustrations to undermine the very same processes that we subjected.
But it was the ANC NEC that said this week, Paul Machatile, speaking on behalf of the NEC, that said ANC MPs will be told to vote to reject the report. I mean, I'm not making this up. That's what they said.
No one is saying you're making it up. The ANC, by the way, does have a right to actually pronounce itself.
So then they aren't scrutinizing the report, they're just blocking it.
You have a right to criticize the ANC, but you also can't say the ANC has no right to actually impose a decision on its own members. It's a voluntary organization. Those that disagree with the position have a right to stop. Like I said to you, we signed up for this. It's frustrating, I know. We've been frustrated before, but we're not a dictatorship. And we are going to subject ourselves to the very same processes that we subjected ourselves when we are dealing with the situation. We dealt with Nkandla. It was frustrating. We were told so many stories. At the end of the day, we prevailed because at the end of the day, the systems were intact. They were able to actually hold the executive accountable. Let us trust these processes, because if we start to undermine them, it's a slippery slope.
Okay. And yet, you're not supporting Ramaphosa for another term as ANC leader at the conference that starts next week.
Yes, we're not endorsing any candidates in this coming conference. We actually didn't even discuss the issue of the ANC conference in leadership terms. We said, look, let us talk about what government is currently doing. Let us talk about what the ANC is currently doing or not doing. Let us focus on organizational resolution. Let us focus on policy. Let us put this issue of leadership, the ANC structures, because sometimes it distracts from the real issues, but let's allow the internal structures of the ANC and let us take a backseat and allow the ANC itself to deliver a collective, and then let's work with that collective to get the way forward.
Okay. But you did support him 5 years ago, right? I don't think my memory is that old. You did. So what's changed since then and now?
Well, the political sands are always shifting beneath our feet. In 2017, the political situation was different, and at the time, the wisdom of the Federation was that we needed to participate in the process of actually endorsing leadership. This time around, the wisdom of the Federation has said that let us not participate in that process. So it made sense in 2017. The structures agreed. In 2022, the structures have said, look, analyzing the political climate and analyzing the dynamics inside the ANC and the alliance, we don't need necessarily to endorse anyone.
Sizwe, there can be no doubt that the person who is president of the ANC and thus of the country matters to your members, to workers. There can be no doubt on this. So are you saying it doesn't matter to Cosatu whether it's William Kize, Cyril Ramaphosa, or Paul Mashatile who is president? Doesn't matter to you at all, and yet you say that Ramaphosa must not resign yet, and yet you don't back him for a second term? I mean, maybe it's just me, but that doesn't seem entirely consistent.
Yeah, I can understand your confusion. It's because you are confusing these issues. The ANC process is a separate process that we're talking about. If you read our statement on the parliamentary report, we didn't say anything about the ANC and the ANC processes. All we said was that, look, we have a president of the country. That report, it will have huge consequences for the stability of the country. Let us not start to push for a president to step down before we have even finalized the processes. Let's subject him to these processes. Let's hold him accountable. And let's allow him an opportunity to defend himself up until he cannot defend himself anymore. If then we find him guilty, then of course he will have to step down. Now that's a separate process. We're talking about a process here where the president is the president of the country and is being held accountable using the constitution of the country, not the constitution of the African National Congress. And now we're debating the issue of the ANC and its conference. If you start to make assumptions that ANC processes and government processes are the same, then that's a mistake you are committing, and we are going to pay a price for it, because in future, when the ANC starts to make the very same claim, we are also going to say the ANC is wrong. These are not the same. The ANC has got its own conference. It is choosing its own president. The ANC has got no supernatural right to win elections. It is only electing its president with the hope that it will make sure it will win elections in 2024. It's not electing the president who will be a president of the country in 2024. It is electing its own president.
Sure.
So let's separate these issues.
Sizwe, I mean, the entire history of Cosatu, which was partially formed by the current president, but the entire history of Cosatu was caught up with the social question of whether unions should fight apartheid or not. That's why Cosatu was formed, essentially, if you go back far enough, that unions should play a role in changing society. that unions are inherently political, as you have been since 1985. And here you are with no view on who should be president. I find that amazing.
Well, it's because you limit politics to mean leaders. I think that's also your point. No, you limit politics to mean leaders. Read the statement again. It says, we are going to go into that conference. We want the ANC, for example, to give us an update on the issue of state bank. This is a policy that we were promised 4 years ago when the minister said the deputy minister is conducting a feasibility study on this. We want the transformation of the financial sector. We want those small medium enterprises to actually receive affordable funding. We had the loan guarantee scheme collapse under COVID-19 because we don't have a state financial institution. Those are the issues that are political. Those are the issues that we want to contest at a policy level in the conference, so that we come out of that conference with the understanding of how we navigate this issue of a stagnant economy. The issue of leadership is an issue that we have said we are not taking a position on it this time around. But we are saying we are interested in focusing on who comes out of that leadership collective and how do we work with them going forward. And do they have the ability to unite the African National Congress? At an organizational level, we are interested to hear how do we resuscitate the youth league structures, the women league structures. How do we bring back selflessness and discipline in the organization? At the same time, we also want to hear how is the ANC going to really turn its fortunes around in the build-up to 2024, considering that we have higher unemployment, we have a stagnant economy, we have got a myriad of problems. So we are participating in the life of the alliance. We are going to be part of that ANC conference, but we are only focusing on policy issues. We are only focusing on organizational resolutions. We have not taken a decision to endorse anyone, so officially we don't have a dog in that hunt when it comes to the president. We work with whoever is elected after the conference.
Sizwe Pamla, I look forward to us confusing each other after the conference. Thank you very much indeed. Spokesperson for the Congress of South African Trade Unions.